Thanks for tuning into the Pre-Patch Podcast. Check out these patch notes.
The following conversations took place before the Yuzu Nintendo settlement and the Yuzu emulator getting shut down along with Citra, but the sentiments made in this segment are still good, even with how the settlement ended up rounding out. So enjoy.
This, but yes, so Nintendo does not like mods, and they also don't like emulators. So
No.
Nintendo, thanks to PC Gamer, Nintendo is not thanks to PC Gamer, Nintendo is suing, but thank you PC Gamer for the article. Nintendo is suing the makers of the Switch emulator. Yuzu claims that there is no lawful way to use Yuzu. I am unfamiliar with Yuzu. Is other than the fact, is it just an emulator? Like,
I've only just looked into it myself.
Just a Switch emulator.
Just an emulator for Switch. Every console has its own like emulator system. So Switch's
It's like PS2X and like Dolphin for GameCube.
Dolphin and Virtual Machine. Yeah.
Okay. Oh wow. Talking about right there. It lets you run Pokemon Let's Go. Back in 2018. And so I guess what people are saying really, or what PC Gamer is saying, is that what really brought this to light was the Tears of the Kingdom emulation. So one day after the Switch exclusive went live,
had some hand in leaking it, but do we know? Did Yuzu have a hand in the leaks of?
No,
didn't think so.
No,
the leaks were
totally
just had their, separate.
Yeah, they just had their emulator out, and people that got the game early through one means or another managed to get it very quickly emulation ready on Yuzu. So
yeah. So they combined that with the leaks that Nintendo was pissed about with their game being leaked early, pretty much.
And I have a feeling that some of the stuff with the Steam Deck kind of spurred this on, because one of the ads for the Steam Deck, whenever it first came out, had a Yuzu button on the Steam Deck's like home interface thing.
I think I remember that, yeah.
And they had to go back and change the commercial because Nintendo was threatening to sue them for advertising an emulator. Yeah.
I mean,
you know what?
I don't know how do you guys feel about this? Because I mean,
I think it's I think it's fucking bullshit. I think fucking like, okay, Nintendo. First off, this is not like Nintendo's which God bless all of you people in out there in the world that are going to rain hellfire down on me for saying this, but Nintendo is not a fucking gamer first company. Nintendo is
they're probably the worst company out of
shitty
the
fucking
group.
Company when it comes to the way that they treat gamers, the way that they treat their own fucking community. Like, they are the largest group of people that sue not only not only streamers, content creators, cosplayers. Like, they went after a dude's paycheck, like, that was just making a 9 to 5. And I understand his lawsuit and why he got sued. Like, there was a little rough, but like, this is ridiculous. Instead of being like, hey, like,
no, this is big time ridiculous. Big time ridiculous. And so there is, all of these companies know that there is a sector of gamer out there that pirates their games through emulation, and that's how they play. They don't get any benefit out of it. But there's a reason why none of the other game developers, Sony or Xbox, have went after the emulator people for any of this stuff. Because at the end of the day, pirates are going to pirate one way or the other, and they weren't going to be your consumer base anyway.
Well, so actually, Sony, I'm just reading down here because it only because this reference to lawsuit that happened back in 1999, where Sony sued a company called Connectix, the maker of the PlayStation emulator, called the Virtual Game Station, over allegations of copyright infringement and various violations of intellectual property rights. Connectix actually won the case, among other things. The court said Sony understandably seeks control over the market for devices that play games Sony produces and licenses, but ruled that the copyright law does not confer such as a monopoly.
Yeah, I think that was a actual hardware system that was playing Sony games, though.
That was like a Raspberry Pi, right?
I'm not saying that like trying to go after Sony or anything like that. What I'm trying to say here is that
I'm just trying to get the facts straight. It's a little bit different because, well, is it really that different?
Though? No, it's the whole thing is like whether Sony's going after the hardware side of it or Nintendo going after the emulation software side of it, right? The because it's a no-win situation, right? Because here's the thing. If Yuzu sells software, right? They're selling an emulation software, right? If when Nintendo inevitably goes to court like this, there is a very large chance that Nintendo is going to lose this because guess what the court is going to say? You have no proof to say that Yuzu was purposely selling this emulation software specifically for the reason of pirating Pokemon or your IPs. Like they sold an emulation software. The user
they're not even selling it. Yuzu's free.
Well, I'm saying if they were to have sold it, like if they were to have had, like that is the only avenue that they possibly could go is saying, hey, they're making profit off of our emulation. But even still, then it's such a hard case to win because it's Yuzu can go.
They're going for the loss of profit, right?
Right,
and that's the only grounds that they have on is they need to prove that they are losing profit due to the emulation.
But then and I've said this for a long time, you then open Pandora's box because as crazy as this sounds, the moment that they say we are losing profit because of the people consuming our product elsewhere outside of Nintendo's, deemed licensed hardware, guess what you just opened? You now open the door for the defense to come in and go, hey, guess what? So you want to also go after Twitch because people consume your software via watching that and they don't ever touch the game because they can watch someone else play it. So are you going to go after playthroughs? Are you also going to go after YouTube? Are you also going to go after
I think Nintendo would.
They would?
I think they would.
But that's the Pandora's box that you try to open, right? That you are fucking with all of this. Not even just to also go and say, if I'm Yuzu, you know what I go, well, great. You all are moving toward digital first, kind of thing. And we all know that on this show, we always talk about, we're very open, about, the digital apocalypse that is coming, and is the inevitable future. The only way to preserve digital software is through emulation. Like that's the only way to preserve it. If you're going through that. So are you now going to say, fuck them, we don't care about that either? Like it's just
game preservation is not on the forefront of these companies' minds for the most part.
Are you talking about emulation or are you talking about Nintendo?
I mean, emulation is the purest form of
it's
what the thing that you said. The
preservation.
Yeah,
the means. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, emulation is the only way to 100% preserve games.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean,
you can get discs like I do all day, but at some point, those things are on a timer too.
Yeah.
The same thing with the hardware that plays those games. Emulation, if I wanted to, I can back up that game onto my computer, have the console emulated onto my computer, and still be able to get value of it.
Well, especially aren't new discs nowadays just like pretty much keys?
Yeah, they're just keys. That's all they are.
They're just keys to run the game on only on Xbox or on Sony too.
Sony will probably go that route, but as of right now, Sony still puts full game on disc for the most part. All depends on the producer, but like 90% of Sony games still are on disc.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Whereas Xbox has went the route of discs are keys, which that's their prerogative to go.
The thing that also too that lends such an interesting aspect to this when we're talking about emulation is also like you guys are familiar with Billy Mitchell, right? Like the King of Kong, Donkey Kong legend from Twin Galaxy, like held the record. Oh my God, Scruffy, go watch King of Kong. It's a great documentary. You need to watch it. If you love video games, you need to watch King of Kong. It's a phenomenal documentary. But are you if you're not familiar with Billy Mitchell was the record holder for Donkey Kong for fucking eons and eons and eons since the game's release. Back in
the arcade cabinet, right?
Right, the old school arcade cabinet, yeah.
Okay.
All the way up until several years ago, whenever oh my god, I forgot his name. Steve Weeb came in and dethroned him. Well, after that, there'd been this back and forth frogging of like who is going to be the king of Donkey Kong, right? I tell you all of this long back history to give you that, throughout this show that I highly recommend everybody go watch. It talks about like submitting a tape versus like doing it live on an actual cabinet. And I'm not gonna tell you kind of what ensues, but fast forward to like the last like maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years. There have been this whole fight between Twin Galaxies, which is the like known record keeper of these old school vintage Guinness records or whatever, and Billy Mitchell, because Billy Mitchell, it was found out that he was playing on an emulator and not playing on an actual legit cabinet. And just recently, like I think it was like maybe like 2 weeks ago or like a month ago or so, it got reversed again and was like, oh, all of his stuff is reinstated because they wiped it clean. They're like, all of your high scores are gone because you're cheating. You're playing on an emulator. That's not really playing. And he goes, okay, well, it's not, you can't find these parts anymore. You can't continue to build I can't just build a fucking Donkey Kong machine.
Right. Plus the
over and over
hardware's
again.
getting slower and slower with age as the processors and stuff die on them and stuff.
Right. So he's just kind of like, emulation is kind of the only way to truly keep doing this. And so it reversed back, and now, his stuff got reinstated. So even in competitive vintage, arcades gaming, like emulation is a hot button topic. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Emulation is sticky because I mean, obviously, emulation is compared heavily to piracy, but you're never truly like even owning a game nowadays, right? So it's just like you buy a game, but you're not really owning it. So you emulate it, but you still don't own it. It's whatever. It's I don't know, man. It's kind of wild, but it really I love emulation because, like we've said, it's really about preservation and keeping games alive. Not even just a couple days ago, I emulated an old game that I've played from my childhood.
What was that?
And it's
was it Nintendo? Oh, I Spy. I was like, don't be letting it be a Nintendo game. You're gonna get sued.
Island. No, it's Scholastic. I don't know how they feel about it, but just for the fucks, I was like, I wonder if this game, still exists.
Did you guys remember Carmen Sandiego? The old school Carmen Sandiego game, dude. That game was such a blast. Or Oregon Trail. Oh, dude, so many hours in the library
on the site. Oregon Trail's on there. Yeah, man.
So,
low-key emulation is the best way to play a lot of games too, because you can up-res it, you can widescreen mod it. There's a lot of modifications that you can do through emulators themselves that actually improve the experience of these games, and it blows my mind that Nintendo is like wanting to take that away out of selfishness. Especially for people that like legally own the game. They upload their ROM to it, and then they play it on the emulator of their choice. Like I know at least 3 people that only exclusively play their Switch games on a Steam Deck or a portable handheld because they can have a better experience on those.
I would.
Don't snitch on them.
I would 100% do it. Same thing. I mean, it's in fact, Street Fighter 6, right?
They own the Switch, but
one of the best ways to play that game, if you have an ultra wide, is through an emulator. Like, because it's the only true way to like play it, smoothly. And Capcom said, okay, cool. Like, congrats, good job. So, I don't know. Anyway, that's Nintendo.
Thank you for checking out the patch notes. If you enjoyed this small selection from our podcast, come and join us every Thursday at 10:30 p.m. Eastern for the full unfiltered pre-patch podcast. And check out our past shows on anchor.fm/prepatchpodcast.